Greetings, everyone. Man, how long has it been since an art tutorial? It's been like 2 years. Wowee, I've been busier than I thought. Time for a comeback, I guess, and let's make it a good one. Today, I will be revisiting something I talked about in my previous drawing tutorial. Something important to me that I rely heavily on in my drawing process. How to use 3D shapes for your drawings. Since it fits the brand, I'm going to try something. Boom! Now I'm in 3D as well. I kind of like how it looks. Let me know if I should stay like this. Personally, I could do a lot more poses that help me out a lot. Although, I should dedicate some time to a more detailed model. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Now, the 3D. It's a funky thing. Why should you use 3D shapes in your drawings? Why is it one of the fundamentals, in my opinion, to all drawing? Well, I think it's best to show you with some visuals. For example, let's start with a random head. Looking at this, it might seem a little overwhelming to tackle, so let's go right down to the basics. How I usually start is a circle, very simple so far, and add some lines to give it a base for a sphere, and now let's break it down. What else is a head made of? Start with bigger chunks. The next big part is the jaw, a wedge-like shape. Smack it where you want it. Wherever you place it changes how the head is shaped and where it's facing. Let's have it like this. With that done, let's move to our next biggest parts. We will work our way down to smaller and smaller details. Let's do the ridge of the nose as well with a block and some little eye socket scoops. You can use negative space of shapes as well for parts like these. Remember, you don't need to be super precise, or else you'll be micromanaging the details you will most likely cover up later with other stuff. Now, with a layout like this, let's get more technical. Smaller spheres for eyeballs, a wedge here and here for cheeks, a defined ridge for where I want the mouth to be. Something to note here, typical faces line up with other parts of the face and head, so use them to your advantage. But me personally, as someone who likes to fuck up the face most of the time, I don't always follow this, and you don't need to either, if that's not what you want. Now we start to get abstract a bit. As we get closer to the nitty gritty, we start using less typical shapes. I think it's more like sheets? Lines? I don't know. Well, the layers of these sheets can be used to build up the forehead grooves, the chin, eyelids, and where the mouth starts to form. And start to break down the shapes you put. That sphere is now multiple little bumps, that line now has segments. Get dynamic! Now for the finest details. You can use pretty much any shape you want to get what you're looking for. Cylinders for lips, spheres for the nose, blocks for where the nostrils should go, a disc thing for the gums, and teeth with bricks. Check out my previous drawing tutorial for that. Start slapping whatever you want, wherever you want. Bam! Now you have a shaped up face layout. Remember, as I said before, you shouldn't put too much time into this exact shape. You simply act as a mold for what the head is to come. With this sketch done, now let's get to the skin. Skin will also technically be a shape. It's like a semi-thick plate or a sheet of paper. We will take this and vacuum seal it to the face. Details that were sharp before now get a gentle cover-up, like throwing a blanket over a ball or something. You can tuck and mash the skin sheet where you wish. Make it tight, thin, or sag. Mess around. Try out multiple things. That's how you find out what works for you. Now, another important thing for why 3D shapes help is how they interact with light. With all these bumps and grooves, certain parts are pointing in certain ways. So let's say a light source right here. Parts facing the light will be illuminated, while these ones fade, and these ones are dark. And here we are. An in-shape face. To help out with your process, don't feel like you have to come up with all the shapes to stick wherever. I use plenty of references of body anatomy to see where I can stick shapes. Have fun, experiment. Now, going through the specific layers of the face, you can do different things for each one. Instead of a sphere-like base, boom, blockhead, or a cone. For dynamic faces, you can have multiple bases, like this open jaw. Now, apply your shapes to other parts of the body. Cylinder for the neck, box for the chest, shoulders, spheres, and more bricks for the arms. A bunch of fucking shit for hands. So much shit. This is why I struggle for hands. Lots and lots of shit. Now, as we have a basis for how shapes can be applied to a drawing, let's put it to work. Starting the process off, let's start with our sphere. I add the guidelines, add some blocks, and then I start adding the jaw. Going to make a little bit different head shape this time around. try to show off that 3D shape. Most of your 3D shapes will be built during your sketch phase. Seeing here, I put the neck, the body, how some of the muscles are going to be on the chest, as well as the connecting points for the neck. Just trying to get a see of how the body is going to flow around the bones and the other shapes. You can see me experiment with a bunch of different type of things, plenty of which don't make it into the end of the drawing. Just to add a bit more variety, putting some tubes connecting to him, because who doesn't love a good tube? Next, the skin. I add this nice fleshy color. And using that darker toned flesh color, I start highlighting where I want the shapes to be. Kind of like an additional sketch phase, I start outlining all the main parts of the body, making sure I have distinct lines for the shapes. I also add very, very basic shading to see where most of the shadows will probably end up. More form lines. And now to proper shading. I'll put my light source right here, so all the parts that aren't facing this light I can turn into a dark red meaty tone. And everything else I start to illuminate. I won't worry about the fade just yet. I'll get to that later. Now putting our background just so I can get a basic sense of how this lighting's gonna work. A ridgy kind of detail on the tubes. Start filling in some of the parts that are really dark, like the eye sockets and the mouth. Darkening things up. Let's start adding eyes. Eyes are a cool shape. They're round, but they have some gross little bumps and grooves. My favorite. It is very important for this section to see how shapes work. I gotta see where the light would best reflect in the eyeballs and where all the 3D details get captured. Now starting to fill in, let's start getting into the blending. This stage I use as the skin tucking. Seeing where all the skin starts folding into itself, just messing around to see what goes where. As I said before, this covers a lot of details. So don't worry about putting too much detail. With the base shapes now played out, we can start doing all the renders and such. Make sure to keep in mind how the shapes flow so you can put all the fun lighting, all the fun grit and detail, and overall, how your drawing will turn out in the end when you're done putting all the fun details together. And here we go. Here's the finished product. The speed paint should be up now if you want to go watch the process uninterrupted. In my previous video, I said I wanted to get 2 videos out before December ends. I cut it pretty close now, didn't I? To wrap things up, go check out the description. You can find my Instagram where I post my art, my Ko-fi where you can see behind the scenes of my projects, my GamerSubs code giving you 10% off all GamerSub products, as well as my other links. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all later.